All righty. Well, welcome everyone to DesignPLUS Your Courses with Reynolds Canvas Templates. My name is Pruyn Bouley. I am an instructional designer here in the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. Happy to have you all here on board for this afternoon faculty learning opportunity. So a couple housekeeping items before we jump right into the material. First, I've mentioned at the top, we are recording this for faculty and staff who are unable to be here live. We will post that in the coming week to our Cidi website and our YouTube channel. Second, I'm very informal, so if you have questions along the way, please unmute your mic, speak up, put a thing in the chat. Happy to review any questions throughout. I will make a note, this, unlike some of our previous workshops, is more showcase demo rather than hands-on workshop. And so while I won't discourage you from clicking along in a maybe your own Canvas sandbox, this is more to show you kind of 30,000-foot level of what these design tools can do, their functionality and their benefit for you. And then because we are recording, you can always review that recording back for the step-by-step process. I'll also point to a couple of resources we have on our website. So, you know, if you do get lost along the way, you'll be fine. But just for time's sake, we've, noted over the years that the step-by-step, you work along with me while I demonstrate does take up a lot of time, and sometimes people need to backtrack. So we're going to kind of put that on the side. But if your learning preference is to, work in a Canvas sandbox alongside, I'm not gonna stop you. So, and then last sort of business for housekeeping. Again, the point of this flow here is to give you an overview of the tool set, and then if these interest you, to empower you to take your next step. You can request a one-on-one consultation with myself or any of the other instructional designers here at Cidi. You can make use of the resources, and I'll point those out again, to continue your learning. But if at the end of these 60 minutes, you're like, this is too much work, I'm not interested in developing courses with a little more zhuzh and styling them up, not a problem at all. You can go about your business. But this is just kind of like a, hey, these are here, we've had access to these, and let's see what we can do with them. So moving right along. Yeah, that's all I had to say about that. So DesignPLUS Sidebar, what is it? Have any of you heard of the sidebar or Cidi Labs, the design tools, or used them in the past? Denise says she has. Okay.
I have.
Awesome.
But I haven't used it since it's been updated.
Perfect. So you are in good company. So to give you kind of a background, we've had access to the design tools for at least 3 years. They've been there. All faculty and staff have had access to them. They weren't front and center, and that was sort of by design. But this past month, we updated. I've been working the past 2 semesters to kind of migrate our college to the new sidebar. And why did we do it now? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is that Cidi Labs, the company, is ending support at the end of the year in December. So we wanted to get out in front of it, make sure we were well and prepared. So any support issues will be on the good side of things. Second is that this sidebar is so much more intuitive. There are a whole bunch of new features that are just fantastic. I don't feel like ever wanting to go back to the old one. The learning curve is slightly steep, but once you kind of get a hang of it, it's amazing. And so it's more intuitive design. The better features really was a standout reason for why we wanted to upgrade now. And then third is for accessibility reasons. Title II regulations are coming, as many of us may be well aware of, spring of 2026. There are some design tools in or accessibility tools that will just knock your socks off. They will make designing courses more accessible, more easy. Those checks, those tools are going to be phenomenal. And so I've built out another faculty learning opportunity, one of our flows called Canvas Accessibility Tools. I think the first one is at the end of March, and we've got a couple in April. We'll continue to offer those, each semester, because accessibility is so important for our learners. So I'll highlight some of those today, but really check out that Canvas Accessibility Tool flow, and we do a deep dive into that. So for those reasons, we have upgraded. On your screen, if I'm sharing my screen correctly, should see what the DesignPLUS sidebar looks like. We'll have take a look at it today in some of our demonstrations, which, speaking of, we're going to do kind of 3 showcases today. The first is creating Canvas content or Canvas pages from scratch. Secondly is designing existing content with design tools. Mainly this is for those faculty that are doing course copies, and a lot of you do that, or you inherit a course from a previous instructor. So we'll look at, with our second demo, how to use these tools on existing content. And then the third one is similar, but it's those that use the Reynolds Canvas templates. Jerry or Denise, have you used the templates before, or are you familiar with?
I've used the templates before.
Perfect. So we actually built those several years ago with the old sidebar. And now with the new sidebar, we can continue to build those out. We can now, after today's flow, you'll be more equipped to know how to navigate the sidebar, how to edit existing templates, and then build upon those. So very, very powerful in those ways. So moving on, I like to always identify the learning outcomes for our workshops. So first, we'll be able to identify key features in the new DesignPLUS sidebar, which I'll try to just refer to as the sidebar for time's sake, and it's a mouthful to say DesignPLUS sidebar every time. Second, we will recognize how to create and stylize content using the sidebar, explain how the sidebar tools can enhance and style existing Canvas pages effectively, looking at the Reynolds Canvas templates, and then finally, we'll explore some additional tools and elements and features if we have time, like accordions, tooltips, popovers, and they understand their design possibilities with Canvas. So before we jump in, any questions where we're going? Everything seems pretty clear? All right. We are going to head to Canvas, where we will start with our first demo. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, the sidebar has been in plain sight for many years, and anyone can access it now by simply clicking the edit button on any Canvas content page. First-time users will notice a red rocket ship in the top right-hand corner. So that's where it's been hanging out. And to access it, you'll simply mouse over it and click it, and it'll pop up. For some of you, it might look like this. And for Denise, this probably looks familiar. This is the old sidebar. So there, in our transition, we've recognized, as Cidi Labs has, and let us know that there's a cache issue. So those that have opened the old tools before update, now that the update has occurred, for some of you, you still get the old sidebar. So I've built in a custom script here. So hopefully it'll get your attention with this yellow highlight that basically states Reynolds no longer supports this old one. Click the link below to switch to the new one. So for those users that see the old sidebar, you will simply do that for the first time, and then you are in the new sidebar for perpetuity.
So may I ask, Kevin, if I have a course done with the older version and I copy it,
yep.
Am I going to see this new DesignPLUS in my copied course, or I'm still with the old one?
So it's user specific. That's a great question. So again, the cached issue might be apparent for you for the first time, the next time you open it. But it's not based on which course you're pulling over. It's just based on the user. So the next time you hit edit and you see that old version, and you hit that switch to the new version, you'll never have to do that again.
Okay, good.
Now,
Thanks.
I'm going to revisit what you just mentioned, and you said you built old courses with the old toolbar. If you bring those forward into a new course and start editing with the new sidebar, you need to do what's called upgrading your content or upgrading the legacy content. I'll talk about that. I have a full website and web page I've pulled together for faculty like you. You run a thing really quickly, it upgrades, and you're good to go. But I'll walk you through that process. Shouldn't be an issue. So that was a great question. Okay, so here we are, the DesignPLUS sidebar. Let's take a quick lay of the land, and then we'll jump into our first demo here in a few minutes. And again, at any time, feel free to interrupt, ask questions. Sometimes I get excited and I, go real fast. So first up, and maybe I'll zoom in a little so you all can see this. Top right-hand corner, I always like to toggle the full screen on. That's this double arrow. And when I click it, it's going to push the Canvas global navigation and course navigation off to the side, giving me more real estate to work on my content. Some people don't mind this. I love it. Just be mindful that if you do use it, your save button disappears. It took me a couple iterations to realize this, and me hyperventilating of trying to figure out how I save my work. Just reverse your step, turn it off, and then you'll find your save button there. Next to that is our undo and redo buttons. Very important in the sidebar because often we make a mistake and we want to backtrack. So as you start building out things, adding them to the page, building out your content, you'll notice a little tracker number next to it. That means, I've got 6 undos to go back to the beginning. Or if I want to redo any of those actions, I can always go forward in time. Very helpful. A note there, saving is very important in the DesignPLUS sidebar. Saving in general is important, right? We've probably all been there editing, a Word document, Excel file, Canvas page, power goes out, or something happens and we lose hours of work. We've all been there. So especially with the DesignPLUS tools, I recommend what I do is I work sort of in chunks, build out my page, and then I'll save it. And really, we should treat the save button as think of it as saving your state or progress. Save that page and then re-edit it. And then anything moving forward, let's say you royally mess up your page, the formatting is out of whack, for whatever reason, you can't undo those, hit cancel, and then you'll return back to your previous state. That will save you hours. Trust me, I've done it the hard way. So I'm here to do the hard, dirty work for you so you all can work with these. So save work often and save mindfully. Okay, that is kind of the top. Looking now at the main navigation, this blue strip, I'm going to go left to right here, but we've got edit current element, this target, and then the plus sign, add new elements. Edit current element, add new element. You're going to live 99% of your time in one of these two menu items. So when you click add new elements, you're going to see a list of all the tools available. And really, we're just going to barely touch the tip of the iceberg. There are so many tools. And I've been playing with this for well over a year, and I still haven't scratched the surface. There's awesome stuff. Cidi Labs does a great job of empowering you with user guides and tutorials built right into the sidebar. And they really encourage exploration where you can learn more about these tools while you're building content. I love it. So this is your add new elements, and then we'll look at this in a minute. And then once you add something to a page, you get dropped into the edit current element, and then you'll notice the settings there have changed, and those will be responsive and change depending on the tool you've selected. In our first demo, I'll walk you through this each set of the way. So we've got edit current element and add new elements. Next to that is the accessibility and usability tools. I have, as I mentioned earlier, there's a flow I've developed that spends an entire hour just on these tools, particularly looking at contrast, headings, alt images, and then external assets, which is super valuable. This will scan your page and your course for files, images, content, links that exist outside of your course. Often we see regularly from faculty that students bring to their attention that they can't see an image or a file gives them an error. And most of the time it's because of a course copy process, and that original file lives in a different course. And so the students don't have access to that old course, so they can't see it. Rather than be reactive, external assets gives you the ability to scan. It'll flag those external assets and then allow you to import them directly with one click, which is amazing. Before, let's say an image existed in a previous course from a couple years ago, you would have to go to that old course, navigate to that page, download the image, come to the new course, upload that, and reposition that. Now from the sidebar, you can just run it, a week before your course starts, find those external assets and re-import them with a breeze. I love that. So check out that faculty learning opportunity where we dive headfirst into accessibility. Moving left to right, help and tutorials here at the top. great place to start. You're going to find Cidi's contact information here at the top, our phone number, email address, and a link to our website. Below that link is a second link. And I developed this website as I was learning the sidebar for faculty and staff like yourselves. Cidi Labs, great company. I've spoken with them in person at conferences. They build so many other great tools, but there are so many resources out there, it's kind of overwhelming. So I curated kind of the must-have or the must-knows out of the gate. And so here is a website, is a great place to start. Outline the tool. Your video guides are going to exist here at the top, where you can learn about content blocks, progress indicators. We'll look at some of these today. So if you're a visual learner, these videos are great to check those out. Upgrading legacy content. So Jerry, you mentioned you've built content with the previous tools, and it sounds like Denise has as well. Well, if you want to take that content in an old course, bring it into the existing semester, and continue to edit that with the DesignPLUS Sidebar, you need to first upgrade that content. This page will walk you through that process. It's mostly painless. You just have to scan it. And when you first open a sidebar on content that is legacy content, it'll flag it and say, this is old stuff. Your page won't be broken. It's not going to appear out of whack. You just, before you start editing it, you need to upgrade it. So check out this link, this page. It'll walk you through that process. If after reading through that, you're still lost or you still would like some assistance in upgrading old content, reach out to us at Cidi. Myself or another instructional designer will walk you through that process. So we're here to help you through that. And then finally, we've got additional resources. So more guides, some that we built here in-house, and then an FAQ page, which I also recommend is a great starting place where you can, learn all about the migration, how this affects you, if it affects you. Those questions and answers will all be there. So check out that resource. That website is, again, here under Help and Tutorials, Cidi DesignPLUS resource site. And finally, at the bottom of that page, you've got some tutorials and user guides from Cidi Labs. We'll look a little bit more at the user guides later on. You've got some videos and even walkthrough. This walkthrough is pretty great. If you launch this, it's going to walk you through essentially what I'm walking through you all now. And it's self-paced. It'll highlight key features of the design tools. So really take advantage of those help and tutorials built right into the DesignPLUS Sidebar for you. You've got our advanced tab here. You don't really need to mess with this. This is mostly for administrators and very advanced designers. But next to that is the three-dot menu or the More menu. Here you can arrange content. We'll look at this a little bit later. Preview content, and then user settings. So any questions about that main navigation before we jump in? Pretty straightforward. Okay. So first demo is we're going to create a page from scratch. Now, I recognize a lot of faculty and staff usually don't go this route. They will course copy or use, the templates as a starting place. But I've found sort of this methodology or this approach is great for acclimating ourselves to the sidebar itself. So we'll do this briefly, and then we'll jump into our course copy example. Okay, so I'm going to start in the Add New Elements, that plus tab. It's always a great place to start. We're going to add a new element. And here we've got a couple things to take a look at. We've got a search bar, which I use religiously. You'll notice there are a lot of tools, and sometimes they can get lost in there. But they've got it more or less categorized pretty well. They've got recently used tools, your favorite tools. So as you start using more and more tools, you have the option to favorite one, and it will live there. Getting started, basic content, that kind of stuff. But if I'm looking for tabs, I'm just going to search tabs and then pull it up that way. You can also sort these. I like the category, but you can sort alphabetically, and then you can also minimize the icons to your preference. So we're going to start out with theme. So I'm going to search for theme. I'm going to find it there, and I'm going to click it once. Once you select a tool, you're going to get what I refer to as dropped in to the Edit Current Element tab, right? I first clicked Add New Elements, selected Theme, and once I selected that, it dropped me into the Edit Current Element. Now, DesignPLUS Sidebar is responsive in that depending on where you have clicked, your tools and your settings here are going to adjust accordingly. So when you first start doing it, you'll realize sometimes you'll look for a specific tool or a setting and you realize it's not there. Make sure you're clicked into the proper content first, and then it will reflect accordingly. So now that we're in the Edit Current Element, the next very important menu is what's called Active Tool. So depending on which tool you've selected, there might be multiple components or elements that you can choose within there that then will determine all of your settings and features below. So here at the top, you can see I can choose theme, banner title, and text. So depending on which one I've clicked, you'll notice my settings and features change accordingly. It's going to take a couple iterations to really get in this workflow, but as you start building on content, you're going to have to be mindful of which tool is active, your active tool, and then edit accordingly. So we're going to be in the theme. Now below that, we've got what's called the actions tools. Now all of these stay the same. So if I mouse over, you can see select theme. Again, I'm on the active tool theme. So select theme, copy theme, cut theme, duplicate theme. If I were to click over to banner title, those all change to select banner title, copy banner title, cut, kind of get the flavor, right? Same thing with text, select text. So your active tool is important. And then if you're going to use any of these tools, make sure that tool is selected. Now with the tool you select, you've got these options like launch the theme walkthrough. So this is a great way to learn about themes and how you can go about using them. You can favorite that tool. So if I were to favorite the theme, it would drop back into my favorite themes back on the add new elements. And then built right into the sidebar for each tool, you can learn what that tool does and then click on a link to the user guide that Cidi Labs has developed. It's a great way to learn about the tools while you're building your content firsthand. And every tool will have that. That's how I learned, is I just kind of click through the tools, click the I button, and then read through the user guides. All right. So we've covered the active tool, the actions tool, and now below that, every tool that you choose will have at minimum a content menu that is collapsible and a style menu that is collapsible. Content for input, adding text, telling the sidebar what you want to add to the page, and then the style being how that material, how that content appears. For themes, that would be a myriad of different themes, and we'll look at that in a minute. For images, that might be a drop shadow or a border. But basically, that's going to be your workflow. Choose a tool, and then you're going to customize content and style. Now, some will have an advanced tab, just depending, again, on the tool itself. But I would recommend first learning, just stick to the content and style. So let's expand content. And here we can see we can add banner images, link grids, but we're going to stick to a banner title, which I could also click banner title in the active tool here, and that will take me to the content. But if I went to the theme, click banner title here, same place, so it doesn't matter. So here I've got text inputs for name, the number, basically what appears currently on the page in the rich content editor. So I can start filling this out accordingly, module 1, and then let's say we want to make this a module overview page. Now, as I tab out, you're going to notice that that changes on the page live. If I wanted a subtitle, you can kind of get a flavor of what the subtitle will look like. So that's your content area. Now, H1, H2, H6, those are heading styles. I talk more about that in our accessibility flow. And I'll briefly bring this up later, but it's important that we have correct heading styles. So we'll just leave it there for now. Okay, so now that I've got my theme selected and I've added and edited my banner title, I can go ahead and fill out my page with text, images, all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to do a generic copy paste of some lorem ipsum Latin filler text, added that to my page. So I want to add an image. Again, knowing that the sidebar is responsive, I'm going to click just to the left of my text where I want to put that image. And I'm going to go up to add new elements on the sidebar, that plus icon. Now, when I come to that, my theme is still in the search bar, so I'll clear that out. And I'm going to look for an image. As soon as I click image, it's dropped me into the edit current element. And you can see now I have text or image as my active tool. In this case, I want to make sure image is selected. And you'll notice on the page itself, I've got a little placeholder. But then under the content menu is where I can find an image that is already housed or uploaded into Canvas. Now, if you don't have your image already uploaded, then you'll need to use the old way via the rich content editor. Oops, here we go. And upload it this way, right? Once you get it into your course, then you will see your image here in the sidebar. So I will go out, find my image. In this case, it is a movie poster from 1980's The Empire Strikes Back, best Star Wars film ever. Don't argue with me on that. And it's dropped it on the page. Now, under our content menu where I selected the image, I could also scroll down. And if we're familiar with alternative text for being descriptive for our screen readers and our students who rely on those, we could add an alternative text here, which helps describe the image if it adds to the learning, right? If it's just decorative, then we can mark it as decorative and go on our way. Under style, so if I expand style, so again, remember we've got content and style. Style is now where I can really have fun with this image. So width and height, maybe I want to make this smaller, so I'll make that 200 pixels wide, make that a little smaller. Next, and this is my favorite, you cannot do this natively in the rich content editor unless you know HTML coding. But when you add images to a Canvas page, you're going to get a lot of this blank space. It looks tacky. It looks bad. Some white space is good, but this, not great. What I'm going to do is do what's called float left, and that will wrap the text around the image, making it more pleasing to the eye. I love that. I could float it right. I could float it middle, but let's go left. This checkbox max fill or max width fill, I just recommend always get in the habit of checking this, especially if you upload large quality or high quality images. What this will do will essentially reduce an image to the device, particularly for tablets and mobile phones. So if I've got a large image and I don't have this check, a student might have to scroll multiple times on the screen to see the whole image vertically as well as horizontally, and that can be cumbersome. That can kind of get in the way of learning. So if you hit max width fill, it will reduce that image to the width of those small screens. And then moving right down along on the style menu, then we can build out some borders, make them round, give them a border. I like this bottom one, the rectangle shadow. That drop shadow just kind of gives it a nice pop. So there's an image, there's some text. Great way to start building a page, right? It's good, but it's not the way in which DesignPLUS Sidebar is designed to be built. The bread and butter of this tool set is what's called content blocks. So think of a content block at minimum as a text heading with body text. And in that body text, you can include text, images, tables, videos, what have you. But that structure becomes sort of a group. And then as you build out a page with content blocks, you then can rearrange those. You can also stylize them with themes and other style content. That is really where the power of the sidebar comes. And I'm going to show you this in action. But really what that entails is selecting your content, because right now it's just an independent image with 3 paragraphs. You would select it, hit add new elements, and then choose content block. And I'm going to do this with our second demonstration here in just a minute. But here you can see now I've got this pink border, or as we like to call it, a wrapper. And now that thing is one chunk that we can move and style together and really bring this page to life. And I'll show you that with our example coming up. Now you'll notice when I created that content block, it created these blanks. That often will happen. Before you start using the delete key or the backspace button on your keyboard, try this little ghost icon called remove empty elements back here on the action tools. remove empty elements. Looks like the ghost from Pac-Man, if you're familiar. That will correctly remove blank spaces, keeping in mind the HTML code in the background, right? Sometimes if you come in here and start backspacing willy-nilly, you might break some code and your formatting gets a little wonky. So when in doubt, try to delete those. And there you see it did remove at least one. Now it won't always work. And if it doesn't, then go ahead and use the backspace, but just do it mindfully. So just to recap, we've created 3 independent paragraphs, added a photo, stylized that photo, and then we turned it into a content block. Any questions before we dive into those content blocks with our course copy example? Okay. So I will back out of here. Go to my predetermined demo. This one here is on the reconstruction. I actually pulled this from Canvas Commons. And so here we're going to use an example. We've copied this over from, let's say, last spring of 24. We teach this repeatedly. We've learned about DesignPLUS tools. Now we want to stylize and make this better looking and more polished. So I'm going to come here to the edit page. I'm going to full screen that, and we're going to get to work. So first things up, because none of this content is in a content block, we can't add a theme and stylize it and make it nice yet. So what we're going to do is first add a theme and then add all of our existing content to content blocks. So step 1, we're going to add a theme. Add new elements at the top. I'm going to find theme. And it's dropped the beginnings of a theme, this banner title at the top. Right, here we are. And so I could click into my banner title. I'm going to double check that I am on the theme on my active tool. And then if I click on banner title here, I can go ahead and fill out my page. So let's say this is a module 4, and we'll just call it reconstruction. So that's looking good. A note on filling out. So I think I mentioned this earlier, but just to reiterate, themes, banner titles, tabs, content blocks, if you could edit the text in the sidebar, do so. That way you minimize any breaking of code on the page. I could come in here and change reconstruction here, but there's a chance I might mess something up. Otherwise, any body text, that's where you use the traditional rich content editor to add and edit text. But here I've got my titles, so I filled that out accordingly. Next, we're going to now turn all of our content into content blocks so then we can stylize, add themes, and rearrange our content. So again, a content block at minimum is a heading, a title heading, and body text or body content. So kind of taking a look at this page, and I forgot to skim through it, but here's kind of an overview of what this page looks like. We've got text, we've got images, we've got videos, all the way to the bottom. What I'm going to do is, here's our first heading, lecture objectives. I'm just, There's an example of things getting kind of crazy. Thankfully, I have my undo button. So I'm going to select my heading in the first text. Now that that's selected, I'm going to go up to add new element and turn that into a content block. And just like that, I now have that pink wrapper, and that is grouped together. I'm going to move on and do that again. Grab my heading, grab my text, back to the toolbar, add new elements, content block, and there's my second one. Next, we got, looks like an image with a caption. So I'll go ahead and grab that, being careful to grab everything that I want. Add new elements, content block, and sure enough, there's our next one. There are gaps along the way. I'll clean those up in a second. Next, we have lecture with a little Bitmoji photo. I'm going to select that and that. Hit add new elements, content block, and that's now grouped. I'm going to skip over the videos. We're going to return to that in a second. And then I'm going to come down to the final heading and once again, add new elements, content block. There we go. And then to clean up those blank spaces, I'll click into one of them and hit my little Pac-Man ghost. And that does clean up some of them, but not all. So we'll just make sure they all are tight. That looks good. Okay. Next up is I'm gonna make a note about these headings. So if I click back into my theme at the top and go to banner title or the theme, this way. Heading 1 is going to be, heading 1 always exists sort of in the code, so we ignore heading 1s. Think of heading structures as an outline or like how a book is designed. So heading 2 is going to be is like a chapter title. Every page gets one heading 2, and that's typically the title itself, so our reconstruction. So here you can see this is a heading 2. Any other headings after that are going to be a heading level 3. So we lecture objectives, instructions, yada, yada, yada. We can move forward, right? Heading 2, and then we've got heading 3, heading 3, heading 3. Maybe one of those heading 3s has a subheading, so then that would be a heading 4. And then maybe the next one we go back to the parent heading, so we go back to a heading 2. That jump from a heading 4 to a heading 2, that is perfectly fine. That is accessible. But what we can't do is go forward and skip a heading level. So if I've got heading 3, heading 3, heading 3, and then I go to heading 5, I've skipped over that heading 4, and that is going to cause the content to get out of order for our screen readers who is providing that content to our visually impaired students. So there is a tool, again, I have a flow on this, on how to correct heading structures, but at bare minimum, just remember that you can't skip heading structures going forward. So how does that apply to this page? Well, our reconstruction title, heading 2, is accurate. If I click on lecture objectives, right now my active tool is the text, and you can see the heading 2 is checked. Now, in what I just reviewed, we can't have a second heading level 2. That needs to be a heading level 3. So I'm going to choose apply level 3 heading, and that will apply that. Now, when I did that, it changed the style of that. And that is because this theme has a particular heading style for heading level 3. A heading level 4 will look a little different. But we can't do a heading level 4, as I just explained. That would be skipping a level. So lecture objectives 2, that is our heading level 3. And I will go down the page and make corrections to all those headings. So instructions, right? That's the heading level 2. We need to change that to a 3. Scroll down, lecture, same thing. Now, this, in my opinion, looks terrible. I will revisit this in a second. But that is now having heading level 3, and that is good. And then again, I'll come down to the last one, apply heading level 3, and now we've sorted that out. With these headings, I can additionally add icons and make that really help these sections stand out. So if I click on my heading lecture objectives, and I go to, let's say, the content block in the active tool, right? You can see lecture objectives here. Maybe if I wanted to edit that, I could delete lectures. So it's just objectives. So that's changed it live. I could also change the heading level here if I wanted to. But I've got this icon picker. So let's make this just kind of stick out a little more. So with the icon picker, you get this little pop-up, and you can sort through all these different categories. I rely on the search bar. So let's see here for objectives. Let's go for something that's like a target. That looks good. So now I've got a little icon for my objectives. Similarly, I'm going to come down to instructions, choose that icon picker on the sidebar. And for instructions, let's say pen or pencil or a book. That works. Choose my book icon. That looks good. The lecture, come in there, choose my icon picker. For lecture, if I do like a what, classroom maybe. Yeah, that looks good. That evokes lecture. And then last but not least, proceed to the quiz. Let's head on over to icon picker, and I will do maybe like an arrow advancing forward. There we go. So that's already looking a little better. Give it a little visual flair to my headings. Now, these little Bitmojis, whatever your opinion on Bitmojis is, let's say I developed these as the instructor of this course, but I'm going to move that. So if I click on that, that is an image, right? So if I click on image and I come back to my active tool, I now can choose between theme, content block, text, and image. I'm going to make sure my image is selected here. And now I'm going to make use of the actions tool because I know there is a cut image, right? So that will delete the image, but add it to my what we call clipboard, and then I can move and paste it below. So I'm going to hit cut image. Bitmoji's disappeared, and then I'm going to put my cursor where I want to paste it. Now, for whatever reason, there is no actual paste icon in the action tools. I have no idea why, but if you know anything about keyboard hotkeys, Control-C is copy, Control-X is cut, and Control-V is paste. So I will hit Control-V and paste that Bitmoji with the text. Now, it's not completely done. I still don't like this white space, so I'm going to click on that image. Make sure image is selected in the active tool. And as I showed earlier, I'm going to go ahead and float to the left. Now that looks much better. Let's go down and do that again to this one. Select the image, select the active tool image, cut image, move that cursor in the text, and then the hotkey Control-V on the keyboard, paste that in. So already this is looking better. My headings aren't as tall. So final thing we want to address are these videos. So right now, these videos, if I click into the white space, will show me the tool is called an embed file. So these are essentially YouTube videos, and you can see if the HTML code here, if you're familiar with that, but essentially it's an embed tool. And again, this was a previous built page, and so the DesignPLUS tools recognizes that. We rarely, with embed tools, will edit things here. If you expanded the style menu, you could, adjust the width. Just make sure you scale it properly. But what we're going to do is, I want these content blocks so they can have the theme applied. But rather than have students have this like scrollable, large vertical space, I'm going to put these in tabs. This will give us an opportunity to play with tabs because that is one of the more popular tools faculty use here. Plus, we already have some templates, the Reynolds template that utilizes tabs. So I think faculty will get some good use out of this. So my process is going to be create a new content block, add a tab to that content block, and then move these videos one by one to those tabs. So if I wanted to, let's say, create that tab right here, well, there's no room for me to click my mouse, right? I've got this content block running up against this iframe wrapper, as it's called. What we can do is click in the content block prior, and then on our action tool, there's this button called Add Paragraph Before or After. Now I'm going to make sure my content block is the active tool. And then when I choose Add Paragraph After, it adds that blank space where then I can click in with my mouse, and I could manually edit text here, right? But what I'm going to use this for is adding a content block. So once again, I'll just repeat that step. I click into the content block prior to the space I want to add. I'm going to choose Add Paragraph After, and now I've got that blank space. Now I'm going to come up, Add New Elements, Content Block, and here you can see that bare minimum of what a content block looks like. There's my heading, and there's my text. If I click into it, and I come over to the active tool for content block, you can see there's my text. So maybe I want to give it a new name like media, since these are videos. Make sure the heading is 3, and then I'll choose an icon just like the other headings to keep it consistent. And I'll do a keyword search for media and find something that looks on par. There we go. I might come in here and then add some custom text like, please watch the following videos in the tabs below. I'm going to hit the Enter key to add a new line. I'm still in that original content block. And now I'm going to go out and find and add tabs. So back on the menu on the right, I'm going to hit Add New Elements. I'll search for tabs, and I'll click it. Tabs will add 2 panels, as they call it, by default. And now, if my tabs is the active tool, under the content menu, you can see our tabs group. I've got 2 panels here. And if we look back at our videos, we have video and text, more video and text. So I'm going to say, 4 panels probably. So I'm going to make sure I'm clicked into tabs. And then I've got this Add Panel button on the right where I can add a 3rd and add a 4th. Now, I could also delete a tab here. Or if, let's say, I built out panel 1 and it has a particular structure with a title and formatting, and I wanted to replicate that across all my tabs, I would build panel 1 first, and then I would use the duplicate or copy panel to then replicate that, and that would save me some time. But for sakes of this demo, I'm just going to do this custom. So panel 1, I could title this first video, second video, all the way down to the 4th. Oops. And now you can see that being edited live on the page to the left. Okay, now we've got space. Now our final move is moving the videos and text to those tabs. I'm going to go kind of quickly here, but when you do this, take your time because this is where a lot of the formatting issues can happen. But really, you're going to click on, first, and unfortunately, you can't select the text and the video at the same time and copy it. They're two different tools, and DesignPLUS Sidebar is just like, I can't do that. So what you do is you click in the first one. So if I click in the white space of the video, there's my embed tool, and then I choose cut embed, just like we did for that Bitmoji image earlier. I will cut that, scroll up to the first panel, and then Control V, the hotkey to paste. And there's my video. And then I'll come down to the text and move that text. I think that video should be by itself. So then in here, I would grab the text, make sure text is selected, cut the text, and then I paste it there, and then work down the tabs. So I'm going to move a little fast here just for time's sakes and finish off the 4 tabs. As I'm doing this, if you have any questions, comments, feel free to interject. There's my 3rd one. Now I'm actually grabbing all of these. While the sidebar can't cut that, if I use the hot key on my keyboard, Control X, it actually will pull all those. But again, for first-time users, go slow because this is where you can alter your formatting. Okay, so it looks like I've got everything in my tabs. I'm going to clean up my blank space by hitting that ghost button, backspace a little. That looks good. And then the final thing I'm going to do is on these tabs, right now the tab is white. Doesn't really pop. I want that to kind of stick out. So if I click into that tab, make sure my active tab or active tool is the tabs. So again, we are in the content menu to edit the titles. If I expand the style, I can choose a default color. Right now it's gray, but if I choose this red, and that says branding, which means these are actually technically Reynolds branding as prescribed by our marketing and communications office. So that's actually the Reynolds red, as we call it. So when I select that, all the tabs now become red. Now you can really customize these. You can make the active tool, maybe an outline. You can do a hover color, all that kind of stuff. Just don't have time to go deep dive into each of those. But you can also choose different styles. So rather than tabs, you can use accordions or expanders. I'll give you a sneak peek of that in a second. But I actually like the button tabs because the basic tabs, it doesn't give you a lot of breathable room between the tabs. In this preview, you can kind of see the border between them are very minimum. I don't like that, so I'm going to choose button tabs. Those are a little spread out wider. Okay, so already we can kind of see this page coming together. If we go to the top, our more options, the 3 dots, and go preview content, we can preview that and see just how well this page has come together. And then there's our tabs, first video, second video, 3rd and 4th. And so now our page is not as long, not as scrollable, and students will have a better experience all around. If we compare that to our original before and after, decent change, right? Already that's breaking up our content, giving students an idea of what exists. The last thing I want to show you, again, taking advantage in the power of content blocks, is in that more options menu, we've got arrange content right here at the top. It's a little wonky, but once you get a feel of your titles, your heading titles, right? Let's say I wanted instructions, this section, this content block, to appear before objectives. Well, here's the instructions content block. Here's the objectives. So I can grab this icon, click and drag. Did that work? Hold on. That was weird. Oh, my preview is in the way. Hold on one second. There it is. So instructions before objectives. Clicking and dragging makes that so much easier. Before, I would have had to try to copy it all, paste it, and that's where everything can go awry. So with arranged content, you can move things around so easy. If I wanted to move the political cartoon at the bottom, I could do that, right? So easy. So that in a nutshell is the demo I had for course copy. We are running short on time. Do you guys need to bounce like at the top of the hour? If so, that's fine. Or if you have a couple minutes, I can show you a couple other things. Denise, you can hang back for 5. Jerry, Jerry, can you stay for a couple?
Couple.
Awesome, I appreciate that. We've covered the bulk of what I wanted to, but I wanted to make sure any and all questions were also addressed. So that was.
Well, I just would have one question for you.
Yeah.
So we've made our one page for this one module, but I got now a course of 12 modules.
Yep.
So first of all, I would like to make my own template. Can I copy this over and over?
Yes. Exactly.
You get what I mean? And just I want all my modules to look the same, right?
Yep. So you would essentially replicate what we've done at Cidi for your Reynolds Canvas templates. This is a great segue, actually, Jerry. So
thanks a lot. I paid for this,
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. You would build your first module to your completion, to your liking, and then you would use that to duplicate in your modules. Module 2, let's say we went with our module overview, and then you would replicate that. You would get that second copy, and then you would edit that. But your theme, everything's there. Then you just need to edit the content, right? Change the titles, change the content. But you would essentially build out your own template. You could even get really advanced and name those like template pages that you can then carry with you every new semester, do duplicates from that, and go about your way. Because that's literally what we set up with our Reynolds Canvas templates, right? Here's every Canvas course is built out with this module called templates. And you've got things like module option A for a complete page. We've got individual page templates, instructional materials, discussions. But in that option, right, module overview page with tab materials, let's say you just built that custom to your own. Once you want to start replicating that, you're going to hit 3 dots and you're going to choose duplicate.
Right.
Do not choose copy to. Canvas did a poor job of describing this. They've now learned that so many people have chose copy to when it should have been duplicate that they put up this warning message. But what happens if you choose copy to, any additional copy you make will overwrite the existing. So I've heard directly from faculty who have spent hours building content, then they choose copy to, and it overwrites their original, and they've lost their mind because rightfully so, they've lost a lot of work. So get in the habit of when you want to duplicate that as your template page, duplicate that, right? Once you duplicate that, here's my example, right? I'm going to open it up, and then I can go to town and start editing that as I see fit. So great question there. Does that make sense, kind of that process, that workflow? Cool. All right. Before we wrap up, I wanted to give you a sneak peek of other tools that I just find are awesome and kind of give you the visual of what they look like. So I mentioned when designing tabs, you can also customize them as accordions. So accordions will only display one panel at a time. And you've got a couple visual options with arrows, with plus and minuses, and then you can mix and match the color, the overlay, and the active tab. All that is under the style menu of tabs. Additionally, you can do expanders, which allows you to keep multiple panels open, kind of like a table of contents maybe. And then it'll also give you buttons to expand and collapse all. Actually, expanders are essentially what modules are, right? You can expand all modules or collapse individual ones. And again, you can customize different styles with plus minuses, arrows, and different colors. And then here's your tabs, which we kind of already looked at. Again, I don't like the basic tabs because they're too close together, but you can do an underline tab, pill tabs, button tabs, and play with those colors as well. So those are fun. Let me show you a couple other things. Tooltip, Popover, and Dialog box. These are great. So tooltip is essentially you mouse over a word, a phrase, and it'll give you a little short word or phrase, for example, like a definition. It's a great way to scaffold new learning, new information, definitions for students to help build the vocabulary over time in your course. That's a tooltip. Popover, similarly, but you have the ability to add an image, add a hyperlink, and then makes it even more interactive. This is great in like, not exclusively, but like sciences, right? You can have, a popover of a cell or a chart or a graph. And then dialog box will take that one step further, and it's clickable and it dims the screen, but doesn't take students away from Canvas. And then you can edit that with any image or text or media you like. So those are some great features: tooltip, popover, dialog box. The final thing I want to show you is quick checks. And if you've played around in the Reynolds Canvas templates, we've got a couple quick checks. Quick checks are just that. They are kind of a quick formative assessment for students to check their own learning. They are in no way connected to the gradebook. They are not gradable. They are just built onto a page or in a module and allow students to check their learning as they go. So in this example, we see what is the purpose of a quick check? And then we've got two options: a quick formative assessment for a student to check their knowledge. We know that's true, but let's say we chose the other one, a graded and tracked question to keep the teacher insights, to give the teacher insights into student understanding. If I go to check my answer, then I'm provided this response: sorry, that's incorrect. Quick checks do not gather information, blah, 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 blah. If I edit this page, you'll see how intuitive this tool is to build out. So really quickly here, if I go into my quick check, edit current element, choose quick check, you can see here are my two questions. I could add a third question, right? Drops it right in. I could put that in here. Maybe it has multiple correct answers, so I could check them here. And then I can customize the response. So if this is an incorrect one, I could customize it there. Really easy, really intuitive. I love quick checks. We get a lot of good feedback from faculty as a low stakes, almost zero stakes, not almost, it is a zero stakes assessment for them to check their knowledge.
Yeah, that's what I've used with the older version of Design Lab is the like in the English, I have an English 111 research module, and it has videos and a couple quick check questions under each video.
Nice. Now you can build it out with the new tool, and it's super easy, intuitive. The last thing I wanted to show you is I highlighted it, but in the help and tutorials navigation at the top, you've got local tutorials and Cidi Lab tutorials. So the local tutorials and the local user labs are empty. Cidi Labs build those so institutions like Reynolds can customize their own and embed it in the sidebar. I haven't had the time to do that. One day, maybe I'll get around to it, but you guys have that website and all those videos I built out, so they're just not native to the toolbar. But the Cidi Labs tutorials are awesome. So if you open this up and then search by a category, like let's say I want to learn about interactivity. Well, let's do accessibility. How to use accessibility checkers. I'm going to choose that. It's going to tell me what I get to practice, what it's going to cover. And then if I hit start tutorial, check this out. It'll provide instructions. It'll build it into the page, and then I can follow along and practice built right into the page, rather than going to a user guide, which Cidi Labs has and are great. But if you are someone who loves to learn while doing, these tutorials will walk you through, and there's a whole host. You can see how many different tutorials they have built right in. So I encourage you to check those out if you get a chance. So with that, I think that wraps up everything I wanted to cover, and I didn't hold you too far back, so I appreciate the patience. I did that. And the walkthrough. Yep. I'm going to copy and paste a whole host of links into the chat. If you're not able to grab them in time, no worries. I'm going to, where's the chat? There it is. But they should be labeled appropriately. You're going to see things like the Cidi website, a Cidi webpage on our blueprint templates, the new Cidi Labs website I built out, and then actually that showcase link, I need to update it. That's no longer working, but those might be helpful to you. If you miss out on those or need them again, shoot me an email. But then the last thing I will just ask of you all and then get you on your way. But if you have any questions, please speak up, is this survey. I'll put a link in the chat as well, but this helps us and me fine tune and make these flows as efficient and effective as possible. They're anonymous, so please be open and honest. I'm all about the growth mindset and always learning, so please check those out. I'll get you a direct link to this survey if you don't have a smartphone on you. Here it is. Give me 1 second. But other than that, if you guys have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, a lot to learn, a lot of exciting things. Check out that website. Those videos is a good starting place. Request a consultation. So back on our Cidi website, if you've never been, faculty and staff off of the Reynolds homepage, Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. Every one of our pages has a request a consultation button. Fill that out. You'll get assigned to myself or another ID here at Cidi, and we'll work with you either in person or virtually on any topic related to teaching and learning, Canvas, DesignPLUS, you name it. So really take advantage of those resources, those opportunities, but otherwise, I thank you both for your time. And if there's any other questions, let me know. I'll hang out for a little bit, but otherwise have a great rest of your Thursday.
You
Oh,
too.
thank you very much.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
All right. Thank you guys.
Good here.
Bye.